Apple has really nailed its smartphone formula. The iPhone 14 Pro features a lot of camera upgrades and the dynamic island, which replaces the infamous notch 5 years after its debut on the iPhone X. I can confidently say that the iPhone 14 Pro is the best phone I've ever used, though I'm disappointed by the battery life. The iPhone 14 Pro Max checks all of the boxes, including stellar battery life. From its pocketable form factor to its sheer horsepower and camera capabilities, the iPhone 14 Pro crushes anything else that tries to stand against it. Sure, it isn't the huge upgrade you might have expected, but that's because the iPhone 13 Pro did a lot right. Display, 6.1-inch OLED, 2556 x 1179. Refresh rate, 1 to 120 Hz. CPU, A16 Bionic. RAM, 6 GB. Storage, 128 GB, 256 GB, 512 GB, 1 TB. Rear cameras, 48 MP, f/1.8, main with 2x optical zoom, 12 MP, f/2.2, ultra-wide, 12 MP, f/2.8, telephoto with 3x optical zoom. Front camera, 12 MP, f/1.9. Video, up to 4K 60 fps, cinematic 4K 30 fps, ProRes 4K 30 fps. Battery life, HRS-1013. Charging, 20W wired, 15W MagSafe, 7.5W wireless. Size, 5.8 x 2.8 x 0.3, 147.5 x 71.5 x 7.9 mm. Weight, 7.3 ounces, 206 g. Colors, space black, white, gold, deep purple. The Pro series has hit a point where it's so good that there's not a lot of upward mobility. What we got this year is the epitome of iteration: better cameras, better and brighter display, a new design element, and more powerful hardware. As you'll see in this iPhone 14 Pro review, this is as close to a perfect phone that I've ever seen. If only the battery life was more than adequate. But when you're done here, be sure you head over to our reviews of the iPhone 14 Pro Max and iPhone 14 to check out what else Apple came up with this year. The Pro series has hit a point where it's so good that there's not a lot of upward mobility. What we got this year is the epitome of iteration: better cameras, better and brighter display, a new design element, and more powerful hardware. As you'll see in this iPhone 14 Pro review, this is as close to a perfect phone that I've ever seen. If only the battery life was more than adequate. But when you're done here, be sure you head over to our reviews of the iPhone 14 Pro Max and iPhone 14 to check out what else Apple came up with this year. The dynamic island is actually pretty interesting. It's not just a static pill, versus the hole punch on most Android phones. And dynamic island expands depending on what you're doing, displaying animations for many system actions like unlocking, playing music, timers, and so on. It'll even turn into a media player if you tap and hold the dynamic island while listening to music. In that way, you can access media controls without pulling down the notification center. Screen cutouts are here to stay for a while, at least until Apple figures out under-screen Face ID and under-display cameras get way better. But as someone who never truly got used to the notch and has hated it since its inception, I like the dynamic island. Not only does it look better than the notch, it offers actual utility where its predecessor just sat there doing nothing. I'm still not a fan of the squared-off edges first introduced on the iPhone 12, but this isn't the iPhone 14 Pro Max. The iPhone 14 Pro's more manageable size makes those sharp corners less cumbersome. The lighter weight also helps it not dig into your palm. Apple made sure the iPhone 14 Pro got some big camera upgrades this year. Chief among them is the new 48MP quad-pixel main sensor. While not unique to Apple's phones, the iPhone 14 Pro can take a 12MP image that the phone has adapted to your lighting conditions with the whole sensor, but with 4 times the detail thanks to the quad-pixel setup. If you want, you can get a whole 48MP image in Pro RAW, which is wild. I think that the iPhone 14 Pro is truly the best phone that Apple has ever released, crushing everything else before it. It easily earns my utmost recommendation.